Hi guys, I'm Jake Adex, a wannabe RS3 YouTuber and a mid-tier PVMer, and this is my day 1 guide for the Sanctum of Rebirth. Alright, so before we begin, a quick look at our preset and perks. I'm using full first Necromancer armor and weapons, an Essence of Finality with the Depth Guard spec in it, a Zuck cape, Zamos Nexus, or any Nexus really, a Scripture of Full, but you can use a Scripture of Jazz or Wen or any other book, an Occultist ring, or a Zorgoth's ring, or even the Ring of Death, but not a Zerker ring because you won't have 100% accuracy here. And in my invent, you'll see that I have overloads, some type of adrenaline potion, a Blessed Flask or Super Restores, a Vitality Potion, runes or rune pouches with runes in them for Disruption Shield, Sour Brews and food, an Enhanced Excalibur and an Ancient Elven Ritual Shard. You'll see that I also have expensive spices in here, which you get from a quest, which all it does is it increases the amount you heal from food by a tiny bit. And I also have a luck ring just for funsies. Alright, so this is the first boss at the Sanctum of Rebirth, right? Basically, before the fight begins, you're going to want to use, pre-build. Do your overload, your darkness, turn your book on, conjure your army. You can also command Ghost, command Skelly if you want to, and invoke Death, right? And then I like to start off by surging into the boss fight, right? So here, you're gonna see me do exactly pretty much that. I also life transfer to extend it, right? Yeah. So here you're basically just making sure you dump as much damage to the boss as you can before the first mechanic begins, right? So in a moment, you're gonna see here where it says Shards of Moonstone, mark your feet, prepare to move, right? All you're gonna do is you're gonna run in a line while spamming your abilities. If it hits you, it's not the end of the world, but leaving them up isn't too great because apparently it gives them more accuracy or something, and they also block your mobility, right? Threads is amazing for clearing the moonstones that pop up. You see where it also shows you like a box before it spawns, right? Here you can see because I was close enough to the boss when I moved, Threads got 2 of them, and then yeah. So now the second mechanic that you're gonna get, right? You'll get a message here in the center of the screen. You can see Vermix channels power from the Sanctum towards the west, right? All you're gonna do is go click to the west side, right? If you're directionally challenged like I am, you might panic for a second and ask yourself which way is west, but west is basically the side I'm clicking on, right? All you're gonna do is you see the green arrow thingies marking a tile, right? You're just gonna go slowly walk into each one, okay? You'll see a shooting thingy from the sky come land on your spot, and you'll get a message saying 1 out of 3 souls or something redirected, right? Then you're just gonna click the next tile that appears, and then once that one comes down, you guessed it, you click on the next one after that too, right? So I forgot to mention this at the start, but you're going to be praying protect from ranged for pretty much the entirety of this particular boss fight, right? But yeah, after you get the 3 ones done, you're coming to the center. You're going to see on the side, the one in that corner throws out like a fiery this thing of death, just like the Crossian Leviathan does, right? So it's important that you get back to the center as soon as you can, right? And here you're just DPSing the main one again, right? So only the middle one really counts. The rest of them are just there as, filler. You're gonna see, more shards. Again, the warning message is Shards of Moonstone, mark your feet, prepare to move, right? All you're doing is more running, right? Just keep moving, keep damaging. So long as you keep moving, they won't hit you, at least from what I've noticed, right? You're generally fine, I think. I mean, you can just wait for it to appear first and then move, but either way, right? What you're gonna see is you'll now get the message saying, you know, it's channeling from the east. We're gonna do the exact same thing that we did with the west one, except this time it's in the east, right? 1, 2, 3, and we're pretty much done here, right? Back to the center. You're gonna see that that entire part of the arena, this thing's up. Well, this is awkward. I'm clearly a genius and remember to overload. Okay, if you see me like moving to the overload one, no, I'm just gonna edit that out. Okay, never mind. Yeah, also I definitely didn't forget the darkness either, right? So anyway, yeah, so when these scarabs spawn, right, all you're gonna do is you're gonna basically stun them. They're immune unless you stun them, right? So you're just gonna stun them, and I think they lose their immunity. Yep. And then you can just, you know, maybe chug a bloat on it or do a little bit of damage, right? And you'll be fine. Downside is you'll be also dealing with the moonstone mechanic here, right? So you're still gonna be moving around a bunch. If you don't kill the scarab, I think it just heals the boss. It's not the worst thing in the world, but this mechanic right now is the worst thing in the world, right? So when you get the message saying Vermis, you know, fires a powerful bomb, ready yourself. Ideally, you want your HP situation to be better than what mine's at, right? Eat your food, right? Protein, vegetables, whatever, right? Keep your HP higher than I've kept here. But even if you're sitting with basically no HP, right? All you really have to do, reflect and Vitbot, okay? So you get some time here, right? You'll see me reflect and Vitbot here. And even with basically no HP, I'm able to tank it, right? Obviously chug your food as well if your HP situation is that bad, right? But yeah, for me particularly, that was pretty much all the mechanics that I saw here. You might notice more mechanics here than I have if your DPS is not as this thing, but that's okay, right? I will release maybe an in-depth one if you guys want one, right? But for this one, this is more of a walkthrough, so we're gonna go into the next boss, okay? Alright, so on to the next boss, right? So here you're gonna do pretty much the same old pre-build, right? And you can either move towards the boss or surge whenever you're ready, okay? So here again, same thing, overload, prayer, you know, conjure your army, all that jazz, and then you can either surge or just walk towards the boss and dump some damage. But here you're gonna see the literally the first thing the boss does, right? He shouts out darken, and then followed by a very choreographed attack, right? All you're gonna do is make sure you're not standing in the marked tile. You can either bladed dive or dive, you know, and or just walk to, you know, any tile that isn't marked, right? You can continue doing damage to the boss a little bit. He hits you. So this boss does hit you with magic and melee hits, right? They do look kind of identical, so it's a little iffy to know when to switch. But if you see any blue orbs flying towards you, that's the magic hit, right? But yeah, so this mechanic, right? You'll see a bar fill up above your head. This is literally the second mechanic he does, right? You're gonna freedom as soon as you see this bar, okay? Now, you'll see me do something that probably wasn't freedom, but don't be me, right? Freedom when you see this bar, right? Because you're gonna get stunned and you're gonna get put in a prison that's similar to ice, you know, next is ice prison, right? And all you're gonna do is you freedom, and then you make sure you click on one of the shards, right? And then dump something that can do like 10k damage. Here I dropped a bloat, but if you have, you know, at least two stacks of folly, you can dump 2 stacks of folly, that'll kill it, right? And then basically get out of it as soon as you can. Walk, run, or you know, surge out of it, and you'll be fine. Right? Now, the next mechanic that you're gonna get is the triple splash or the triple choreographed splash, right? Where it'll mark tiles 3 times in a row, right? For me, ignore the fact that I got hit by it, right? But the ideal way that I like to do it is I like to bladed dive to the center, right? Then I escape out, and then I can just walk back in, right? Makes it super super nice actually, like if you don't mess it up like I did. But yeah, here he does the darken mechanic again, right? And when you phase it, you'll see here I phased it mid mechanic, right? All you're gonna do is you're gonna basically go to one of the pillars. When the arena turns this color, right? All you're gonna do is you're gonna go DPS down one of the 2 pillars. There's 2 pillars in the room, right? You can pick whichever pillar you want to go to. This is a DPS check, right? But yeah, ideally you go for the pillar that's closest to you. But if you're gonna, you know, surge bladed dive across the map to the other pillar instead, I'm not here to judge, right? But ideally, again, yeah, you're gonna basically invoke that and dump your DPS on it, right? You'll notice the bar at the top center of the screen, right, where it says 9 right now, right? That bar is just basically gonna fill up ever so slowly, right? As you're DPSing it, you can see it goes 15, you know, 18, 19, 20, and so on and so forth. If it reaches all the way to the other side, where basically if it fills up, you're gonna basically get, you know, a pretty terrible mechanic that, as far as I know, pretty much insta kills you. Okay, don't ask me how I know that mechanic exists, but it does. All right, you're just gonna DPS the pillar. You can save your DPS so you can dump it on the pillar, making it easier, but entirely up to you. Yeah, so here, go back to DPSing the boss, dump some damage on it, and of course, right, you're gonna see scarabs. Yay, more scarabs. Look, there's 2 of them. Okay, now what you can do is you could, again, stun them, right? And then that should honestly probably kill it just by itself, right? Yep, the damage from the stun kind of kills it. Now, if you don't kill them really fast, completely fine. You're gonna get this mechanic that'll overlap while you're dealing with the scarabs, right? Just make sure you're not in the marked tiles, right? It comes from outside the arena inwards, right? You'd go back on the boss, continue damaging it, right? Well, until you get the next mechanic, of course, which is triple splash, except I think this time there's only 2 of them, if I remember right. Never mind, there is 3 of them. Okay, so for me, sometimes it only gives 2, sometimes it gives 3, right? But yeah, continue DPSing. If you get this bar above your head here, right, all you're gonna do is freedom again, right? And then dump a volley on it. Easy. Surge out or walk out, it's fine. It's not, you know, mandatory that you surge out. I just get impatient and I, you know, like to get out. You get the same exact splash thing mechanic this time, except this time there wasn't any scarabs, right? So yeah, arena turned gray or green means you start the DPS check again, right? Go back on the pillar, dump some damage on it. Make sure you always invoke that you can even throw a vuln bomb on it if you want to. And then you're back on the boss. Okay. Here he does the darken mechanic. You already know how to deal with this. You can either bladed dive or just walk between the tiles and you're fine. So yeah, when you see that weird animation, it's hard to distinguish between his magic and melee. This thing, you can keep soul split up if you want to, but I would highly recommend, like, you know, noticing which one it is and then praying accordingly. But anyway, that's besides the point. You get the bar above your head again, freedom, all right? You already know this. You're just dumping a volley. It just repeats the same kind of mechanics in this thing. So when something's flanked towards you, you pray magic. And inward splash means you move outward, right? Move not outward, just move out of the way, I guess. But yeah, there isn't much else to this boss. Again, the triple choreograph mechanic thing that you get there is probably the worst one, where it does the splash thingy, right? And yay, loot, right? So yeah, the worst mechanic that this boss has realistically is just the triple splash one. That's the one that I still get hit by, you know, if you mess up. But realistically, if you can dive in and then escape and then just run back in, you'll be honestly fine. Okay, so that's about that. Again, these are the only mechanics that I noticed, right? And depending on how you phase it, the mechanic order that you'll get after phase 1 does vary ever so slightly, I've noticed. But it's the same mechanics. It's just the order for them can be a little iffy starting from, you know, the second phase or whatever, right? So yeah, moving on. Okay, now the third and final boss, the Devourer, right? So same thing, you're gonna pre-build, okay? Exact same thing, darkness, book, your overload, you can conjure, command, no? I like to extend as well, same thing, right? When you're ready, you surge in, right? And then you want to dump as much damage on the boss as possible, right? But making sure that your adrenaline stays above 50%, all right? So here, while you're dumping DPS, you're gonna notice that you're gonna get the first mechanic, which I like to call the wishy-washy wave, right? It'll show you the tile, this thing, it'll show you the tiles where, you know, the wave's gonna come from. All you're gonna do is you're gonna walk out of the tile and then immediately walk back onto the tile, right? As soon as you see the wave pass, and you're fine. I do have to mention, you're going to be praying a range whenever she shoots those spiky projectiles at you, right? Those, the ones that look like a spiky diamond. Those you're going to be protecting from range from. And you'll pray magic whenever she shoots a bally projectile at you, one that looks like a giant ball, right? Yeah. So here, very shortly after, you're going to see that she will say, prepare for death. And this is your cue to basically use devotion and pray magic, okay? In normal mode, you can get by just using resonance. Here, it hits you 3 times, right? So you're going to kind of want to use devotion and pray magic. Otherwise, it's not going to be a real enjoyable time, right? So devotion, pray magic. You'll see 1, 2, 3 hits, right? And all of them get blocked out by devotion. That's the easiest way of dealing with it. Now you're gonna get the wishy-washy this thing again, right? Here, shooting magic projectiles at you, so you pray magic, right? Now when she starts this wishy-washy one, she does start hitting you with ranged autos, if I remember right? But that's fine, right? All you're gonna do, again, walk to the other side, walk back, you know, and continue damaging the boss, right? You're gonna get more wishy-washies, but this time, guess who showed up? That's right, a scarab. Now, Adamasket, me personally, I don't really enjoy going and killing the scarabs while dealing with all of this, so I opt not to. If you want to, it works the same way. You can stun them. But you're gonna see very quickly why I don't, right? So this mechanic where she says, feel the power beneath your feet, right? Probably the most fun mechanic in the entire dungeon, but also probably the hardest mechanic at this boss fight, right? You want to make sure that you have dive ready to go. You have a very small window, you know, to do this. So you want to dive, and then as soon as the tiles are marked, you dive, right? If you dive on time, you'll see your dive cooldown gets reset, right? Now she'll do the same thing again, dive, and then continue DPSing, right? Here, the scarab is completely filled up, right? All you're gonna see is, so long as you keep your HP high, right, you'll just take a very small 7.4k hit to the face, right? Now, if you're worried about this, you can also use reflect, right? The way I like to deal with it is either I reflect or I barricade, right? But if you can keep your HP high, honestly, you're fine, right? Now, prepare for death. The same mechanic that we devotioned and prayed magic for before, you can see won't be dealable with the same exact way, right? You might ask, why not? And the reason is because, you know, this comes out so fast that your devotion's still on cooldown, right? So you might, the fact that you got bombed to, you know, very low HP, and the fact that you don't eat up back to full health doesn't bode too well for this. That's fine. You have time to eat up right now, right? Eat a couple pieces of food, reflect, and then vit pot. Okay? That you also want to make sure you're praying magic, of course, right? So you'll see me pray magic, reflect, and vit pot, and then you take basically, you know, no damage, right? That's the way you deal with it if your devotion's on cooldown, which it will be, right? Every second one that you get, you'll kind of have to. And once that mechanic is done, right, more wishy-washies, right? So basically just that. After the wishy-washies, I believe it is, you know, another one of the fun time but not long time kind of one, right? Get ready to dive. Got lucky and they spawned, you know, in a way where I didn't have to dive at all, right? But yeah, you're basically just gonna follow that up with another wishy-washy with more scarabs. You can again heal up to full kind of to survive it, or you can see what I do here, right? Because you're gonna get another one of the fun time mechanics, right? Here, that one, the only one that was safe was the center one, so I'm standing in the center one. I can see that the scarab's almost full, so I instead barricade and then continue dealing with this, right? The fun time mechanic, you only get, like, you know, 2 of them, right? So at this part of the boss fight, you only get 2 of them. But I will mention this, you can't barricade and just stand in it, because if you stand in it and you get hit by it, it turns off all your defenses and puts them on a 6-second cooldown, I think, right? So that would usually kill you, right? So since I'm barricaded here, it's prepare for death. Unfortunately, my barricade time's gonna end, so I just devotion anyway, right? And then more wishy-washies. And this basically just repeats, you know, till the boss phases, right? So it phases at 480k, and you're gonna see I didn't phase it in time, so I get another one of the fun time mechanics, right? Just dive around and you'll be fine. So now the fun sorry, not the fun time mechanic. Once you phase it, right, you go into this weird double hellware mechanic, right? There's 2 hellwares here. It's this hellware, you know, identifies as Nephthys, right? That's fine. All you're gonna do is, you know, gonna basically invoke that and kill these, right? While you're killing these, you'll see that there's especially if you stand where I'm standing, right, you'll get basically the same 3 mechanics on repeat while you're dealing damage to them, right? So you'll get the star mechanic, then you'll get wishy-washy number 1, wishy-washy number 2, right? And then star mechanic, and then it'll just repeat that on this thing till they die, right? Here, wishy-washy, right? Again, invoke that, continue. You'll see that she says be healed and then occasionally heals it back to full, right? I think that's to prevent people from slow DPSing it, right? You do kind of have to dump DPS. It is kind of a DPS check, right? So dump your DPS. Here it's star mechanic, right? Wishy-washy number 1, wishy-washy number 2. Okay. Now, here, now that we've done this, this is gonna start the final phase, right? And in my opinion, this is by far the hardest part of the entire boss fight. Okay. You're gonna basically get a few mechanics on repeat till the boss dies. Okay. And the first one that it does is it says suffer the full power of the sanctum, right? And then she basically sends you into the desert. Okay. Here at pray melee, if I remember right, I always pray melee here just because, you know, I noticed I was taking melee damage here, right? You pray melee, you go release the soul storm here, and then not sure if you're able to see this, you see where there's a monkey symbol here, right? And whatever symbol this is, if for me this looks like a bunch of skyscrapers, except it's, you know, 90 degrees, where it's like this is a building instead of it standing up like this, right? So you'll see these two hieroglyphs over here, right? While you're dealing with this, you basically just want to remember these, right? The way I do it is I'll give them fun names, right? Inverted buildings, monkey, I see them, right? And I'm just saying out to myself, monkey and inverted building, right? Here, once you click on the thing that spawns here, right? It'll spawn these two acts. All you're gonna do is invoke that, threads of fate, right? And you can sap to get back to full souls or as many souls as you want, and then honestly just threads will kill them so long as you remember to invoke death and then threads. Whatever abilities you use after will kill them. You can dump your volley if you want to. You'll see that I blowed instead, right? So they both die to invoke death. Right after that, you're gonna see these 3 soul fragments, right? You click on them, look back at these 2 images, right? Very important that you notice these 2 images, right? Because very shortly after, you're gonna get sucked back into, you know, the boss fight, and there's gonna be 3 of them. You're gonna have to stand on whichever one wasn't in, you know, whichever one of the 3 that isn't a monkey or this one. Obviously for me it's a monkey and the inverted building. For you it might be something else, right? So just pay attention to that. When you go back, you're gonna look, see, now I see inverted building over here, right? I see monkey over here, and I see deer over here, right? Now I don't remember seeing a deer in the desert, so I'm gonna bladed dive or surge onto this one, right? Basically, and then that standing on that will protect me from the insta kill that's inevitably gonna come to my, you know, this is basically the hieroglyph mechanic. Here I start dumping as much damage to the boss as possible, because again, this hard part of the boss fight ends when you manage to kill the boss, right? So you're gonna, if you take your sweet time killing it, downside is you're gonna have to deal with, you know, the same mechanics on repeat for multiple cycles, right? So dump damage, and then around the time where she says you cannot stop, right? You cannot stop me, but when she says that, that's ideally when you want to stop hitting her, right? And then just move to the side here. The way I deal with this is I get my dive ready, right? She'll either throw magic or range projectiles at you. You pray accordingly, right? And as soon as you see the first splash, I just dive to that spot, right? Then I start running away, okay? When I run away, the next set of waves are going to start, and as soon as I see that, I escape back into it. Now, as far as I'm aware, if you get hit even once by it, it puts everything, all your defensives on cooldown, which means the prepare for death mechanic that's going to happen right now, you won't have devotion or reflect available for, right? So if you get hit by it, usually it means you die, right? So try not to get hit by it, and then just devotion, right? You'll get the be prepared mechanic, you're fine. Now immediately after that, you're gonna see you get the fun time mechanic, except this time it's on Adderall. Okay, so fun time, instead of twice, you'll get fun time 1, 2, right? 3, and then you'll get wishy-washy here, and then JK. There's also a fun time mechanic here, right? You're dumping your DPS during this part, right? Again, same thing. Lucky procs on fun time, right? If you haven't killed the boss in this period of time, which, you know, again, unlikely that you're gonna one cycle it, you get sent back into the sand and everything repeats. All right, so again, same thing, right? You pray melee, invoke that threads. This time I pay attention to the 2 things on the wall there, right? Same exact thing. Just gonna keep an eye for it. You're gonna click the 3 soul fragments, and then I see a human, and I see, well, yeah, I noticed that the pyramid wasn't there, so I stand on the pyramid, continue DPSing, and you're gonna see the exact same thing, right? The be prepared mechanic will come up right now. Luckily here you, sorry, my bad, the central this thing, right? So here it used ranged auto, pre-arranged, dive, and then I escape back in, right? Prepare for death. I can use devotion, pray magic, and then fun time on Adderall, right? Again, here, if you can kill it here, perfect. It dies, and that's the boss fight. If you don't manage to kill the boss in that time, right, all that means is it'll just keep repeating that cycle. Well, that was my guide, guys. If you guys liked it, let me know, drop a comment, let me know if it helped in the slightest, and if you guys need any extra help, you can always, you know, reach out to me, drop me a message or something, and I'll be more than happy to help. Okay, so till next time, bye.